President Donald Trump signed an executive order protecting women's sports from gender-confused men and preserving the original meaning of Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 as biological sex, not gender identity. The order will establish sweeping mandates on sex and sports policies and will direct federal agencies, including the Department of Justice, to interpret federal Title IX rules as prohibiting the participation of biological males in female sports. Whoever thought that would be required? It's just common sense. I will tell you, that's the refreshing thing about the Trump administration thus far, is that common sense has returned to town. Congresswoman Stephanie Bice is a member of the House Appropriations Committee and the Committee on House Administration. She represents the 5th Congressional District of Oklahoma, and she was there today. Congresswoman Bice, welcome back to Washington Watch. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well, Tony. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so tell us more about the executive order. I believe you were there when it was signed today.
It was a great day. President Trump invited members of Congress, members of Senate, governors, attorneys general, as well as a slew of young girls and women who have participated in sports to sign an executive order to do exactly what you said, and that is return us to common sense, and that is that men should not be participating in women's and girls' sports. God has made us in an image, and we are different for very important reasons, and for people to sort of confuse that, I think doesn't make any sense for most Americans. And so it was a great day to celebrate women and girls in the United States today. And I'm so thankful that President Trump is acting on his promises that he made when he decided to run for president to get this country back on track. It was a great day. I was so honored to be a part of it and looking forward to getting back to those common sense policies that should have been in place from the very beginning.
Now, according to White House officials, they expect sports bodies like the NCAA to change their rules in accordance with this order now that it's signed. The White House, the administration has a lot of ability to shape what's happening in the country. They're doing it, in this case, the Trump administration, doing it very overtly. They're not backing away from it. They're just saying, hey, this is what the policy is. It's common sense. A male's a male, woman's a woman. But the previous administration, many of the Democratic administrations that push this stuff, do it very covertly. They use their influence, whether it's trying to use social media to censor conservative voices, or it's to push this radical gender ideology through our schools and workplaces. They do it covertly and try to say, oh, we have no control over it.
Yeah, it's really, I think, surprising to me that you saw so many, particularly higher ed institutions, that were pushing this narrative that, biological men could actually play in women's sports, transgender, if you will. And one of the, I think, biggest voices out there in opposition to this, narrative was Riley Gaines, who is a athlete at the University of Kentucky. And if you've ever heard her talk, she really talks about not only was this an affront to her and her faith, but that it was dangerous. You've had situations where biological men have been competing in women's sports and have actually caused physical harm to them, whether it is volleyball players, or other sports. They're being impacted. And we just want to make sure that, first of all, that women are competing against women. President Trump, in his executive order today, the speech that he gave, mentioned that 3,500 awards have been given to men that have won in women's sports. And it's just wholly unacceptable. So I'm glad that the administration is taking this step. I think Congress has a role in this as well, and that is to codify in law some of the things that the president is pushing, and this is one of those. So it wouldn't surprise me if, my colleagues or myself try to draft legislation to codify this. So for a future administration, they don't try to reverse course in these very important policies.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Very important, because there's a lot of that. And when we look at across the spectrum on these executive orders, it could go away in 4 years. And so it does need to be codified. I know there is a bill dealing with women's sports that has made its way through the House before. It's always gotten stuck in the Senate. I got another question for you, Congresswoman Bice. The executive order, I believe, also has instructions for the Olympics. It speaks to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. What does it speak to in terms of Olympics?
I haven't actually read all of the details, but I will tell you the president also mentioned this important piece. And again, he wants the fairness in competition. There was a Olympian in the last Olympics, a biological male that competed in, I believe it was a boxing match, and won. And, it's an unfair advantage. Men and women are built differently. God created us in different likenesses. And so, making sure that it's a fair and even playing field for women to be able to compete. That's what really Title IX was all about. And so not only is he looking at this from a education standpoint within our, school institutions, but he's also looking at it for the Olympics to make sure that these biological men don't have an advantage over female athletes that are participating in the sports in the upcoming Olympics. In the future.
Well, it is encouraging to see. Congresswoman Bice, I want to thank you for joining us again. Always good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.